All right, let's get this started. This is our holiday panel discussion, how to launch a new product on Amazon. We're going to start off with some quick introductions. We have an awesome panel here today. I'm really excited. First of all, my name is Andrew Laird. I am the Senior Account Manager at Mayan, and we specialize in Amazon advertising optimization. I also am a seller, and I've been selling on Amazon for the past 6 years. I own 2 different brands. One is called ProShot Case, and one is called Title Sports. So thank you so much for joining. I'll turn it over to Randy for a quick introduction.
Thanks, Andrew. Hi, everyone. My name is Randy Ward. I am a production success manager at Suna. If you've never heard of Suna before, we are a fast, casual content creation company, which is a very, very long-winded way of saying that we help our clients get really easy, affordable, and high-quality content for photo and video of their products, which is great. I have been with Suna for about 2 years now, so I do consider myself a bit of an e-commerce photography guru, if you will. I'm currently based out of Denver, Colorado, and a little bit about me is that I love hiking in the Rocky Mountains, and I have a dog. Her name is Piper. I apologize in advance if you hear her barking in the background. And I'll pass it over to Emma.
Thank you so much. Hi, my name is Emma Shermer-Tamir. I am the CEO and co-founder of Marketing by Emma. And what we specialize in is helping e-commerce brands connect with and convert their dream customers through copywriting. So whether that's Amazon listing optimization or website copy, we kind of dig in to figure out who you are, what makes you special, and communicate that in a way that makes customers want to choose you over the competition. I got in really late last night. My flight on Sunday was actually canceled. So if I'm also a little bit slower today, please excuse that. I'm running on very little sleep, but really excited to be here. And Chris, love to hear about you.
Yep. So my name is Chris Weitzman. I am the general manager over at Seller Rocket. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Seller Rocket, we are PR for e-commerce. So what we do is help brands get discovered by publishers to have their products featured in editorial content, both featured on Amazon, if you ever see those articles related to your search or editorial recommendations, as well as off Amazon that lives on the native publisher site that you'd find via Google search. I've been with Seller Rocket for a little over a year at this point. We've been a vastly growing company, and a little fun fact about me, favorite color is orange.
Nice, a lot of orange in this presentation. Fun fact about me is I'm a little bit colorblind, so I have trouble seeing orange. Anyways, let's jump right into it. So thank you all again for joining. I'm really excited about the lineup we have for today. There's going to be a lot of good information. We're going to try to keep it, we'll do about 40 to 45 minutes and then leave some time at the end for questions. We're first going to talk a little bit about considerations for a product launch and how to advertise for your product launch and your products in general. We're going to talk about product photography. We're going to talk about product listings, titles, and keywords, and all the nuances involved in that, and then holiday guides. And like I said, we'll have a little bit of time at the end for questions, so please feel free to put your questions in as we go through the presentation. But first, the holidays are coming up. It is, we're in the season of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, the Christmas buying season. If you haven't heard already, there's another Amazon Fall Prime Day coming up on October 11th and 12th. So this is the first time Amazon is actually launching another Prime Day event in Q4, which is pretty exciting. The holidays are generally a great time to launch new products. There is generally, a lot higher search volumes. There are higher conversion rates. There's more of what we call impulse buying, where people are searching for a lot of products. There's a lot of clicking, and they're buying things that they haven't necessarily considered that they need. It just tends to be what happens during the holiday season. We went into more detail on that on our previous webinar. And in addition, there's also a lot of gift buying. So November is always a great time, October to November is always a great time to think about launching new products and, really take advantage of, all of this additional search traffic and buying that's happening during this season. I personally launched my first product ever in early November. And within 1 month, we had $90,000 in sales. So that was a really exciting time for me. This was, 6 years ago when I launched my first product, but it just goes to show that with the right advertising, marketing, listing optimization, and photos, there is so much opportunity on Amazon. So why advertise for your product launch? Obviously, you need to advertise. I just wanted to give a couple statistics about why it's become more important than ever to advertise for your product. So first of all, at Mayan, of all the accounts that we manage, which is a couple hundred at this point, we see that on average, about 52.2% of all sales come from advertising efforts on Amazon. Now that is a crazy number. More than half of all sales come from advertising efforts. This is a big change from what we saw 5 or 6 years ago, when it was usually around 10 to 20% of sales that were coming from advertisers. At least that's what I found in my personal experience. But part of the reason for this is the amount of advertisement placement has increased significantly. It's over 50% in the last 3 years. If you think about it, you've probably noticed that on Amazon, there's now sponsored brand video ads, there's more top of search ads, there's more sponsored brand ads, there's more product detail page ads, and of course, there's more sponsored display ads as well. So Amazon is increasing the amount of ads available, which has just been a trend that we've seen continue to grow over the last few years. In addition to this, we know that about 40% of all first clicks go to the first 4 top of search products. That's why it's so important to understand your advertisement placement and really think about how to optimize those placements to get more clicks, especially when you're first launching a product. So getting into the details a little bit more. When you are ready to start your ads, you should be thinking about first your keyword strategy. So this is really important. I personally use Helium 10 to understand keyword search volumes, to understand what keywords work well for my competitors. There's a lot of tools that give you easy access to do that. But I always start up by creating specific campaigns focused on first exact, phrase, and broad. And I do my keyword research. I make sure that I have all the keywords in there that I want and launch those right away. Keyword targeting tends to be a little bit more expensive, but you should be willing to pay for that, especially when you're first launching your products. The next is product targeting. I think product targeting is one of the best ways to keep your cost per click down and really expand your reach on Amazon right out of the gate at an affordable price. We found that at Mayan, our product targeted ads, and this is, product targeted ads are when you're having your ad show up on a product detail page. You're targeting specific products, specific competitors, and you're showing up, right on their specific pages. So we find that on average, the cost per click is about 42 cents for our customers, at least for product targeting. So that's relatively low. Our average cost per click across the board is about 80 cents. So this is about, a 50% discount on what you might expect otherwise for some of your keyword targeting, sponsored brand, or sponsored display advertising. So I always heavily invest in product targeting. It's a great way to get your, to see your product start to move, especially right out of the gate. And, if you're worried about your costs and your advertising spend, it's a great way to have affordable, very affordable cost per click. Finally, I always recommend having an off Amazon marketing strategy. So when I told you that I made $90,000 in the first month of sales, this was with, about a $10,000 to $15,000 advertising budget. About half of that was on Amazon, but a lot of it was off Amazon. And this is really important. It's important for the Amazon algorithm because they love the fact that you're driving traffic off of Amazon to their website. You can get referral bonuses if you set up your attribution correctly for off Amazon marketing. Personally, I used Google PPC, I used YouTube, and I used Instagram influencers to get the vast majority of off Amazon traffic. When I was starting out 6 years ago, TikTok wasn't even a thing. Now I think TikTok is one of the best platforms for influencer marketing, and I would highly recommend to use all of this in your launch strategy. You cannot just list a product and set up a couple ads and expect it to blow up in your first month. It's not going to happen. You need to drive traffic. You need to create awareness. You need people to be able to find your product outside of Amazon and bring them to the platform to really get that conversion. It's really helpful, especially when you have a new product that has no history and no reviews. So next, I want to talk a little bit about your expected budget and expected returns. Especially if you're not doing any off Amazon marketing, when you have a new product with, no history, no reviews, no searches, it's hard. It's hard to get conversions right away. And the best thing you can do is, just try to find the keywords that work the best, utilize product targeting to keep your costs down, but really you should be expecting no more than a 1 to 2 ROAS or return on ad spend in your first month from your Amazon advertising efforts. You have to be willing to invest in advertising. You have to be willing to invest in your product. And if you do this correctly, you'll set yourself up for long-term growth. We usually find that when you launch a product initially, usually about 80 to 90% of your conversions are going to come from advertising efforts. And that is going to decrease over time as you get more reviews, as your keyword rankings increase. So that's why it's really important to not be shy with your budget right out of the gate and make sure you're spending so that you can also take advantage of my last point, which is the honeymoon period. When you first launch a product, it is a blank slate. And Amazon, when Amazon thinks of new products differently than established products. Because they have no history, they have nothing to go on. And they want to give new products a chance to, sort of show up. So what they do is they give you, an opportunity to rank really well for certain keywords. Even if you just have a couple of purchases for a given keyword in the first couple of weeks, you're going to start ranking on page 1 right away. So if you combine all of these efforts, you are going to take advantage of this honeymoon period, and you are going to set yourself up for a very successful product launch. The next point I want to get into, and this has to do with the honeymoon period, and I've seen some of my customers and some other sellers make this mistake pretty frequently. It's a lot of times you get your inventory into your 3PL and you list it as fulfilled by merchant. That can be a challenge. If you're planning on eventually launching your products as FBA, I recommend just removing that step of having FBM when you're trying to launch this product. It's another sort of ding Amazon gives against you because they treat FBA slightly differently than FBM, especially for advertising. And I've seen that, when you try to launch an FBM product, it's really hard to get impressions, clicks, and conversions from Amazon advertising efforts. So I would start off just by waiting until your products are actually available to FBA, and that's when you should launch all of your marketing and advertising strategies, sort of at the same time, simultaneously, to try to get lots of conversions right out of the gate. So we talked a little bit about sponsored product advertising. I'm not going to dig too much into sponsored brand right now. We've covered that before, but I do want to get a little more in depth on sponsored display, because this is something that has changed significantly over the past year. Sponsored display audience targeting is relatively new. Again, this was launched within the last year and is something that we've been experimenting with and collecting data on. So first of all, there's the difference between contextual targeting and audience targeting. Contextual is what you're used to in terms of, targeting specific keywords, targeting specific products, or targeting categories on Amazon. Audience targeting is completely different. This is more like what was available or what is available on Facebook and Instagram, where you can find, people's lifestyles, people's interests, people's life events, or people that are in the market for a specific product and advertise directly to them. So I'll give you a couple examples of how we've done this. First of all, one of my products is an underwater iPhone housing. It's a case that allows you to go scuba diving with your phone so that you can capture photos and videos on your underwater adventures. But I noticed that we were constantly wasting ad spend for Samsung users, Galaxy users, people that weren't using iPhones, because that's the only phone our case was compatible with. So now there is a lifestyle and an audience that will only target iPhone users. So that immediately reduces about 50% of my wasted ad spend that was going to people that did not actually own or use iPhones. And that's just one example. There's lots of, you kind of need to put your marketing hat on to think about how your products might fit in to these given categories. My last point is that with sponsored display, view and purchase remarketing is a very powerful tool. This is the only way to remarket customers that have been to your product page before or have purchased your product before. I set this up for pretty much all of my customers when they start out, because I know that remarketing is one of the most powerful advertising tools you can use out there. And again, this is relatively new, only available through sponsored display advertising through Amazon. So my last point about sponsored display, and this is very important to understand, is when you're setting up your sponsored display ad, you can optimize for reach, optimize for page visits, or optimize for conversions. I always recommend optimizing for conversions. Amazon has what they call a VCPM model, and CPM really just means cost per 1,000 impressions. So Amazon is trying to get you to pay a fixed amount per 1,000 impressions that you're going to get to use. So there are a lot of problems with this, but this is some data that I wanted to just highlight why this is such a big issue. This was one VCM campaign that, when a customer started with us, we immediately turned it off. But you can see that the cost per click in each of these columns is close to $5. The click-through rate, the average click-through rate for a sponsored display ad is about 0.06, which means per 1,000 impressions, you're going to get less than 1 click. So you can see on this specific ad, this customer got 1,060 clicks, but because Amazon is using their VCPM attribution model, they claim that it led to 1,119 orders. This is not how your ad should be attributed. Everything else is attributed on a cost per click basis. This view through method is saying that even if a customer just scrolled through a web page and the ad happened to be on the side panel, Amazon's going to attribute that view as a sale for the next 7 days. So do not use VCPM, always optimize for conversions. This should really be, the average conversion rate is about 10% on Amazon for advertising. So I would expect more like 100 orders from these 1,000 clicks, not 110% or 1,119 orders from this. So that's my quick sort of explanation of how to launch your products. Please feel free to scan this QR code. At Mayan, we have an excellent data science team. All 4 of our founders are from MIT. We've built some really amazing tools and automations to help our customers grow. And generally, within the first 3 months of working with a customer, we see ROAS increase by a minimum of 30%. So those are pretty impressive results. And we also offer free advertising audits. So this is where you can give us access to some of your data, some of your reports, and we're able to provide a presentation to show you exactly what you might be doing wrong, how we can improve things, and the steps we'll take to help you reach your goals. So thanks for your time. I am now going to turn it over to Mandy at
Andrew,
Suna.
sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Andrew, sorry to interrupt. We have a question, and
Sure.
I think everyone else, feel free to jump in if you'd like to answer as well. We have a question from Cloud. While launching my new product on a competitive department, I received a 1-star without any written review and no possibility of tracing. I suspect a disgruntled and frustrated competitor. How can I get rid of this 1-star review list that is killing me?
So the short answer is you very likely will not be able to get rid of that review ever. I know it can be very frustrating when somebody leaves a 1-star, especially if you only have a handful of orders so far. So you might be thinking this could be a competitor, this could be somebody who's just pissed off or trying to tank my business. The reality is it's almost impossible to get reviews removed on Amazon. I've tried it many times. If you can't find the customer to contact them, then you have even less of a chance of getting that review removed. But Amazon support is usually almost never going to remove reviews unless there's something like profane language or something against their terms of services. So what I recommend is there are 2 steps you can take. One is to close down that listing, and this can be a pain, but you can close the listing down, create a new one, and try a product relaunch. Because you have very little sales history and only 1 review now, it's really not going to hurt you to do that. My second piece of advice would be to use Vine Voices on Amazon. So that's a program where you can pay $200 and then send your product out to 20 different people to get honest reviews from Amazon customers. So that's a way to sort of try to bury that 1-star review. I know it's frustrating. I've dealt with this before. I've had customers deal with this before. But those are really the only 2 options that you have, because Amazon is not really going to help you remove that review unless they're unless it's really against their terms of service. I hope that helps. Anyways, great question. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Randy with Suna.
Thanks, Andrew. I feel like I learned something from those slides, so I appreciate that. Okay, everyone. So let's talk about product photography. It's really fun, it's creative, and you have to have it in order to sell anywhere online. As of this year, there's approximately 27% of the world's population does shop online in some capacity, which is a little bit over 2 billion people. And they simply are not going to buy something that they can't see what it looks like. So let's jump into what we're forecasting for the 2022 holiday season. First, due to the state of the current economy, we're likely going to see a longer shopping window. Clients want to stretch out their budget as much as they can, and this means that they're going to be purchasing earlier than we've previously seen. And yet, despite current inflation, we're still expecting to see an average increase of spend per shopper by about $50, give or take. And it's estimated that there's going to be about 463 billion, with a B, $billion spent during the holiday season in 2022, which that number is like mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, wow.
I know. Last year in 2021, 66% of all Black Friday and Cyber Monday shoppers did purchase off of Amazon. So there is a massive opportunity for Amazon storefronts this year. And we know long gone are the days of heading to Macy's with your parents or your family. This year, it's projected that 60 to 70% of all holiday shopping is going to be done online through e-commerce. And this number does continue to increase year over year, especially now that we're post a global pandemic. There's also m-commerce, which is consumers shopping on their phones rather than on a laptop or a desktop. M-commerce was at an all-time high in 2021, sitting at about 71% of all online shopping, and that is still expected to increase in 2022 as well. So we're going to get into this a little bit more, but if you haven't updated your content for holiday, now is the time to do so. Amazon Prime Day round 2 is next week on October 11th and 12th, and it's being optimized specifically to bring in early holiday shoppers. Yeah, next slide. Thank you. So what are the common pain points that we see about content creation? First and foremost is I've never done this before. I don't even know where to begin. That's very understandable. It can be a mountain that you're up against. Second is making sure that your content is really consistent across all of your platforms. So making sure that your Amazon listing page matches your website, which matches your paid marketing and your email marketing. All of it should be consistent and look like it's representing the same brand. Next is scalability. So making sure that you're able to grow as your brand grows. And then of course, making economic decisions. The good news is that we at Suna have identified all of these pain points and have really implemented systems to help and put practices into place. Next slide. Thanks, Andrew. Okay, so let's chat about some holiday content best practices and good to knows. Holiday is a really, really great opportunity to design your website header or your Amazon storefront to reflect the season. So from Black Friday to New Year's Eve, you're going to want your platform to be holiday specific. Make it festive and make it interesting for your consumers to look at. If you can keep them engaged in just the fact that it's fun, they'll keep coming back to your site. In order to give your customers enough time to make what we call a purchasing decision, I'm sure we've all, been on a website before and we add to our bag and then we abandon that bag. And that's what's called giving our consumers time to make that purchase decision. So you're going to want to start posting holiday content at least 4 to 6 weeks ahead of time. And then based on that forecast that consumers are going to be purchasing earlier than ever, you might even want to consider posting 6 to 8 weeks ahead of time. So essentially, we're looking at the next week or two. You should be focused on really changing your social media, the hero images and video on your website or on that Amazon listing page, paid and email marketing, and all of those should slowly start to become seasonally focused content in the next week or two, or, as soon as you can. And of course, we also know that Black Friday and Cyber Monday are the 2 largest e-commerce shopping days of the year. So in order to ensure that you have content to post for those days, you want to create as soon as possible. We have clients at Suna who get all of their holiday content done in July even, just because they really want to make sure that they have it and it's ready to go. Another best practice that we like to talk about is creating a seasonal content calendar. So this calendar, you can plan accordingly for upcoming holidays and how you're going to utilize them to drive traffic to your website or to your listing page. And yes, I know we're all currently in the headspace of thinking about the really large holidays that are coming up. Again, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Christmas, Hanukkah. Don't forget that seasonal content is also year round. So, there's always a reason to celebrate. Maybe it's National Pet Day or National Pizza Day. Those little seasonal holidays that you can put on your calendar can still really impact the drive to your listings, which is great. And you can get really creative with it. And then also incorporating movement into your holiday content. So statistically, it takes less than 1 second for your consumer to digest a really high quality photo, no matter how beautiful or engaging it might be. But if you add in a video clip or a GIF, the consumer has to physically stop and watch it, which automatically creates more engagement with your brand versus just a stagnant photo. Now, you have to keep in mind that in addition to all of these best practices, Amazon still does have its own technical requirements that you need to follow. So for your Amazon listing, in order to really help with the credibility and your sales conversion, we recommend that you need to have at least 4 images on a pure white background. Those four images on the pure white should showcase every single detail and facet of your product. So you can get really in depth and what we like to call zoom in ability. So they're super high quality. So your clients can literally zoom in and read either the directions, the nutrition facts, whatever it might be. Then we also recommend 2 images in a lifestyle scene so that the buyer can imagine it and what it would look like in their own home or in their own life. And then 1 e-commerce spin video, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's your product doing a 360 spin on like a rotating plate so that consumers can see every single detail. In addition to all of these, that's when you can sprinkle in that holiday content to make it festive. Alrighty, so like I said earlier, Suna is a production company that makes it really easy to create affordable and engaging content. Here on this list, you'll see the whole long laundry list of everything that we're able to do at Suna. But what I really want to touch on is the fact that it can be your one-stop shop for content creation. Whether it's creating holiday scenes of your product, just normal e-commerce product detail imagery for your Amazon landing page or for your website, or if you need to work with models of any and all ages, shapes, sizes, ethnicities, and then video content, you can get all of that done in one place, which our #1 goal is to be convenient and easy for our consumers. And if you have any questions about the Suna process, we offer a live demo, a Q&A walkthrough 3 times a week, and you can just find that on our website. And I'm happy to answer any other questions that people might have.
I had a quick question. So I know you have a few different locations around the US, but what is it like if you want to partake in a virtual shoot? What is that process like?
Yeah, great question, Andrew. I would say that probably a good 70% of our photo shoots happen virtually, just because, like you said, we only have locations in 5 different cities. So how it works is if you are based, let's say you're in New York, we currently don't have a studio in New York. You would create your booking online and you would really be able to pick out, oh, okay, I need holiday content versus I need just normal e-com on white for my listing page. I need a video. You give us all of the details of what it is that you're looking for, and then you ship the product to the studio. Then once it's the day and time of your photo or video booking, you're able to log into your computer in live time. You'll have a call with your photographer and your crew where you'll really be able to kind of digest together, hey, here's what I need help with. They'll be able to make their own personal recommendations, and then you will watch the photo shoot happen live. So all of the photos are going to be popping into a gallery in live time. You'll be able to talk with your photographer saying, hey, here's what I'm loving. Here's what I would like changed, because our end goal is that you purchase only what you love. Suna works off an a la carte pricing model, which means that if you don't love anything, you don't have to buy anything, and we can always give it a go another different day. And then essentially after your photo shoot, you purchase those images that you love, and our editing turnaround time is always 24 hours, which is incredible. So you can have your photo shoot happen on a Tuesday afternoon, you check out that evening, and then you have those final assets back by Wednesday afternoon, and then they're yours to use as you please. You can post them on your Amazon page, on your social media, etc.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, that's definitely a unique aspect of the business.
Oh yeah, it's fun. Okay, no other questions. I will pass it over to Emma for marketing.
Okay, so we're kind of getting into now, we've been prepping a lot of the things to do to get ready for launching. I would like to caution, we're talking about launching for Q4. Once you get into November, I would really advise you against considering how much you want to start changing, just because with Amazon, things happen unexpectedly. And so as much as you can do now in this next month, the better you'll be able to be positioned, instead of scrambling and potentially freaking out because something got your listing suppressed or what have you. So just a quick word of caution whenever I'm talking about holiday things, I think it's really important to talk about. So, okay. We are kind of trying to combine in a rapid fire way this conversation around making your listing very SEO friendly, but also very customer focused. And that's kind of this fine line that everyone is always trying to play. So we have the keywords that you need to be able to bring people into your listing, and then the copy and the imagery that is going to help actually convince people and communicate what your product is, and that it is in fact what they're looking for. So let's just imagine for a moment that we wake up this morning. I mean, maybe I woke up this morning. I didn't get much sleep last night. I look in the mirror. I'm like, okay, time is passing and I'm feeling a little bit insecure about the wrinkles on my face. So like, okay, I'm going to go to Amazon and I'm going to see what's there. And I type wrinkle patches into the search bar. Next slide, please. And these are 4 of the listings that I might encounter if I am looking for this product. And if we look at these 4 options, we see 4 very different types of images and 4 very sort of different types of titles as well. But I really want to zoom in on the one that's on the farthest left, which is this Frownies forehead and between eyes 144 patches. This is a product that went viral on TikTok, which is from most likely the reason why, despite its terribly optimized title and listing, it still managed to command the top organic spot in Amazon. So this just speaks again to the power of off Amazon traffic to what it can do for your listing. But I really want to dig in and see what can we do to make this title even stronger so that the people that aren't on TikTok also want to buy this product. Because if I'm searching for wrinkle patches and I haven't been on TikTok, I don't even know what that product is. I have no information here that's helping me understand this is for, any type of anti-aging, anti-wrinkle treatment. It's kind of a big question mark as to what this product is, how it works, what I can expect from it, etc. So next slide, please. So things that we want to consider asking ourselves as we're putting together a title, but really as you're putting together your whole listing. First and foremost, what is it? Seems like a fairly obvious question, but you'd be surprised at the amount of listings that I look at that don't give a clear answer to that question. And what does it do? Also kind of hand in hand, because wrinkle patches is saying what it is, but it's not fully communicating what it does. So what this does is it helps minimize the appearance of wrinkles and helps turn back the clock of time. Why would someone want it? And then you do want to be considering important keywords as well. So what are those keywords that somebody's actually going to Amazon, typing into the search bar when they're looking for a product like yours, and thinking about how you can integrate those into the pieces of your listing in a way that's going to make it very customer friendly, but still getting those important keywords. Some other sort of specific questions that I might ask about this product is, what shape is it? If it can be used for anything else. So this says forehead and between eyes, but perhaps I could use it on my décolleté or on my smile lines or other places. And how long does it take to see results? So these are just some of the questions that I might have, but this is really meant to be an example of the kind of journey that you want to go through when you are preparing to put a listing together. So it can be quite simple and unintentional. When you are creating your listing, you're already at the point where you've done lots of product research. You've spent a lot of time with your product, learning the ins and outs. And so you kind of forget what it's like to be somebody that doesn't know anything about that product. So you need to find a way to take a step back, think about what the customer knows, and then make sure that you're giving them all of that information so that they can make an informed decision. We also don't want to, there was some talk at the beginning of this conversation today about how impulse buying is even higher this time of year. And that's something that can work in your favor. But the one thing that you want to be cautious about is that you don't want to be encouraging a lot of purchases that people aren't going to want to actually keep, because then all you're doing is driving up your costs, creating a lot of extra work for yourself with having to manage returns, opening yourself up to potential negative reviews and disgruntled customers and all sorts of things. So we want to make sure that we're being as clear as possible about what this product is so that the right customers can buy this. So on the left is the title that we saw when we looked at those search results. And on the right is the title that I've kind of recrafted, and all of the orange highlight, those are all keywords. So I found a way to incorporate a lot of really valuable keywords into the title, but combining all of it in a way that is first and foremost giving the customer all of that information that they want to know. So frownies, facial patches for wrinkles, instant customizable forehead wrinkle and smile lines treatment, 144 triangle overnight anti-aging facelifting masks. So people are understanding that this is something that's going to work quickly, how they're going to use it, where they can use it, what kind of benefits they can expect from it, how many there are, just lots of questions in a very compact way. And so this is what you want to be thinking about when you're putting your own titles together. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we're kind of shifting gears a little bit. We were talking some about SEO, but really the thing that becomes what I think where you should spend the most time in your whole strategy for not just listing optimization, but packaging design and how you're creating your images and all of those things is what makes you unique. It's very unlikely that when you are launching a product or selling a product on Amazon, that you are all that different from your competitors out there in the product functionality itself. And so branding really becomes the tool that you have to be able to differentiate yourself from all of the competitors so that you actually give customers something that they can use to make a decision. So how do you decide when they're all the same? You're looking at a rack full of white shirts and, when they all look identical, what are you going to do? You're probably going to either pick the thing that's the cheapest or the thing that has the most reviews, because you're not given any other reasons to choose for. But if I start to tell you about how this t-shirt is manufactured or what the mission behind the company is that's selling this t-shirt, or, some other thing that's not even really related to t-shirts, but is a core part of what our business is committed to and cares about, then now I can use that thing to choose the brand that I identify with most closely. Next slide, please. So if there's no clear differentiator, as I just said, you force customers to choose based on price or reviews. Next slide. So dominate your competition with the power of branding. So all of these lollipops look the same, but each one is a different color, a different flavor. Some people love cherry, other people love blue raspberry. Figure out what is going to make you a choice for your target customers. So let's just look at a quick example as I'm kind of wrapping up my portion of this presentation. So we have two coffees here. These are both high caffeine coffees. They are both selling on Amazon. Melita is a brand that's been around for over 100 years. They're very well established. They're in many retail locations. Black Rifle Coffee Company is an e-commerce first coffee company, and they've just done massively well, largely through the power of branding. Because at the end of the day, the products that they're selling are more or less identical. It is coffee, which is a commodity good, and they're both high caffeine coffee. So we can't rely on the product itself to actually be the thing that makes people choose one over the other. The other really interesting thing that you can't actually see on this slide is Melita sells for less than half the price of Black Rifle. So when you figure out this branding piece, you also have more flexibility with how you can price your products, because you're not having to just go for the cheapest price possible. You're able to really connect with customers on things beyond that. Next slide, please. So this is Melita's A+ content. It's fine looking. It's it's not bad, but it's very generic. It's kind of just like if you were to brainstorm a bunch of coffee ideas and catchy phrases, then this is sort of just an amalgamation of all of that. You could easily replace the Melita logo with Folgers or Maxwell House or anything like that. And there's really nothing here that speaks to Melita's unique brand specifically. So again, it's not bad, but there's nothing here that's going to help someone decide, yes, this is the coffee for me over all of the others out there. At the end of the day, people are either going to choose it because they're familiar with that brand or because it's the cheapest option. Alternatively, we have Black Rifle Coffee Company. They're doing something totally different. In fact, only one small portion of their A+ content is even talking about the coffee itself. The rest of this A+ content is talking about the brand. So we have a message from the founder, our mission statement, our culture, our brand. Not only that, all of the images with people in them, they're wearing Black Rifle Coffee Company merch. Now, it's not just saying the name. Black Rifle Coffee Company is a veteran-owned coffee company. In their listing, they talk about how they support the military, how they support law enforcement. These are somewhat divisive kind of ideas to get behind. There are some people that will see that and will say, you know what, this coffee is not for me. I'm not really on board with that. But there's a whole other group of people that say, wow, this is awesome. These guys are totally, I was going to say my cup of tea, but I guess it'd be my cup of coffee. I'm really excited that I get to support a mission like this just through drinking my coffee. This is something I want to be a part of. This is something I want to tell other people about. This is something that I'm wanting to make my coffee of choice in my household. And it's not about the coffee. If both of them were just trying to say, stay awake, the end, what are you going to choose? So Black Rifle recognizes that if they're only talking about the coffee, they're not necessarily going to have the ability to connect with people in a way that's going to lead to repeat purchases, that's going to lead to that brand loyalty, and that's going to help them compete against all of these other companies that are very well known, very entrenched in the marketplace, and already have a lot of brand loyalty from other people. Next slide, please. So differentiate to dominate, discover what makes you special, really figure out what makes your brand unique, and then communicate that through your messaging, through your copy, through your imagery, and use story, even if that's something that you have at your disposal, to develop those deeper relationships beyond just the surface level. And we do offer a free analysis for your listing. So if you'd like us to take a look at your listing and give you some feedback about what you might be able to do to make your listing perform better, you can either scan that QR code or go to marketingbyemma.com/free analysis, and we would be happy to give you some free feedback.
Great. Thank you so much, Emma. That was really helpful. Next, we have Chris from Rocket. Last but not least.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. So let's talk editorial recommendations. So last year, about 60% of consumers relied on editorial recommendations when looking into product categories that they were unfamiliar with. So they're very, very heavily relied on, especially when you're looking into something you're just kind of unfamiliar with, because you're looking for a third-party recommendation. And so obviously Amazon, knows this is a main attraction for their consumer base as it becomes more and more of an SEO tool for consumers. There's two different ways to kind of utilize editorial content. One is more evergreen, where you're just kind of building your brand from the competition. The other piece, especially when it comes to the holidays, is looking for those last minute selections. So you're targeting more of an upper funnel consumer who's been on a BuzzFeed article before, of like top 27, summer items, or top 27 last gift guides. Exactly, right? Everybody's done it at some point, whether it's on your phone or on feed or something like that. I won't lie to you, every year around the holidays, I'm looking for those last minute gifts for like my brother or my sister-in-law or something along those lines. So I'm searching for gifts for men, gifts for women, things of that nature. So that's where you can help your product kind of stand out when it comes to editorial listings as well. Just a little bit of background and kind of understanding them. From the on Amazon editorial recommendation as outlined here, there's about 200 publishers that are part of the program. All of them were invited in by Amazon. So it's actually not Amazon finding the recommendation out on the internet on the publisher site and slapping it on their website. It is actually invited in. They're writing this content specifically for Amazon to highlight these brands. So definitely some major benefits to it is, one, making your product stand out amongst the competition. Being featured in editorial content is very great. It's eye-catching. Every consumer, as you're glancing down the page, if you see a product in the sponsored ad, people can pay for it there. But if you see it organically there, then also in the editorial recommendation, that's when your eye's going to gravitate, okay, I'm going to look into this product a little bit more. But they've also done the research for you and the comparison. Every publisher highlights obviously the pros and why it sticks out amongst the other competition. This one's the best value because of X. This one's, the best buy because of Y. On that end. And so it's a good way to have your product stand out on Amazon alone amongst the competition. Go to the next slide, please. But then there's also the off Amazon content, as I mentioned, the holiday gift guide. So a lot of people rely on Google as another search avenue. And so we come across those gift guide buying editorial recommendations, or if you're searching for best curling bar, whatever the case may be, it's a great way to divert traffic back onto your Amazon listing as well. Major benefit there is Amazon recognizes that, and so they do reward the brand being featured in there by boosting its organic rank. So it's helped to drive it up to the first page there. So it's a good way to attract, again, a more upper funnel consumer. So it's a great way, if you're launching a new product, as we mentioned, to just get some instant recognition. Publishers love new products all the time. They know the marketplace in e-commerce is always, ever expanding, more and more products coming on the line. So they're constantly reaching out and researching new products, every month, every week, to add into their content to be shown. Because one product that may have been great 1 year ago could have had 3 or 4 different products come out that are actually slightly better. That's the beauty of capitalism, is always improving and standing out amongst the competition there. And so to combat a question earlier today, if you have that bad review, it's a great way to help combat that, because there are unfortunately, competitors out there that will probably buy your product and leave you a bad review just to hurt you. It's a bad practice, obviously, but being featured in editorial content is a great way to help combat those bad reviews.
So Chris, what's the best way to sort of get yourself into some of these holiday gift guides? This is stuff I've done before, just trying to reach out to them. I usually don't hear back. I know it's always something that's on my radar, but it takes time sometimes to even get into one. So how can you specifically help with that?
So where Cellurock is unique is we have a vast network of publishers that we work with. We were actually, our founder founded bestreviews.com. So he actually founded a publication, and then during that process realized there's a major gap with brands trying to be featured, but also publishers trying to figure out what brands to feature. So that's why Cellurocket was created, to be that middleman, doing that early investigation of a product. Hey, yes, this is great to be featured in a recommendation, or hey, this isn't, based off current economics of things. And so that's where we basically step in. Obviously, as you mentioned, Andrew, you've reached out to many publications trying to be featured. They are swarmed daily by those emails. So that's why they like working with companies like Cellurocket, where we've already built that establishment and trust with the publications, in that we're going to do that early research for them, saying, hey, this has some minimum qualifications, or hey, this is an up and coming product category. Great, we can reach out to the publisher and get it connected there.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody so much. Thank you to the panelists. That was a really informative discussion. I personally learned a lot. It was great working with all of you. We have a little bit of time left for questions.
Hey, Andrew.
Yeah. Hi, Julia.
Hi. We have one question available. I heard you say that ad conversion on average is about 10%. What about organic?
Great question. So conversion rates in general on Amazon are about 10%. That's both advertising and organic. When you split them up, you actually find it's pretty similar. The biggest difference I see in conversions is when people are looking for brand specific keywords. That's when I see, that's when usually both advertising and organic conversions tend to skyrocket. But that was just a general figure for overall, or overall conversions is about 10%. It obviously can vary wildly based on the type of product, the brand, what people are searching for. But that's just a general average. And like I said, when I do see branded keywords, those I see conversion rates generally much higher, usually 30, 40, sometimes even 50%. When people are specifically looking for the product or the brand.
Excellent. And we also have a question. Cloud would like to know if we can have Chris's email. So Chris, if you can, we can send that certainly out afterwards. If you want to drop that in the chat, go ahead.
Yeah,
I can drop that in. I also heard that possibly participants are not able to participate in the chat. So just letting everyone know, you're welcome to submit questions through the Q&A. So yes, Claude got it. Excellent. So if anyone has any other questions, feel free to submit directly in the Q&A.
Excellent. Well, otherwise, thank you everybody for joining. We will have this recording and we'll, we can send out the presentation, we can send out the recording afterwards. Again, thank you to everybody who joined, and that was a really great discussion. Thank you to all the panelists. I really appreciate you taking the time to work with Mayan. It was very exciting stuff.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.